Salvete omnes, nomen mihi est canicus. Thank you for joining me for this new series that I'm calling Novus, which means new. This is probably going to be a long first video. I was talking to somebody today about getting into the game and I've had a couple conversations with people who are potential new players, and I was starting to think about all of the things that I needed to say, like what to explain, and oh, you got to think about this and all that stuff, and it got me thinking, what is the completely new player experience like? What are and most specifically, what does the game itself, no wiki, nothing else, what does the game itself explain, tell to a new player? Okay, so there might be a point where I think maybe a player got to a point where they just start looking through the menu and clicking on things. But I'm going to try to avoid even that. So this isn't going to be a perfect experience. I do know what I'm doing for the most part, at least in the early game. So I'm going to try to limit myself to just what the game tells me. And as a part of that, I'm on my free to play account. There's no code because somebody, at the time of this recording, if somebody picks up the game and starts a new free to play account, they're not going to have access to the code. So they'll be limited in what quests they can do. And so, what does that look like when you're told, no, you can't go to the Borderlands or whatever? This is going to be slow. I'm going to talk to everybody. I'm going to try to give the game the biggest benefit of the doubt. I'm going to try to avoid not just what does the game throw in your face and make you read, but what is there if you look. Okay. I mean, yes, there are some things that are in the menu, but the game has to give me a reason to click on them. So, what kind of character am I going to make? Well, I can't, it's difficult for me to not bring my knowledge of this to the game. So, excuse me. I'm going to click on iconic. I know it doesn't tell me yet. Okay, so I'm going to find out that I can't do any of those. All right, so I'm limited to these first three. Okay, I know that. You'll figure that out eventually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a d6, and if... Am I on the wrong window mode? No, I'm not. I'm going to roll a d6, and if it's a 1 or a 2, I'll play a melee character. If it's a 3 or a 4, I'll play a spellcaster, and if it's a 5 or a 6, I'll play a specialist. So I'll bring that up and roll. To roll the d6. A 3. Okay, so I'm going to be a spellcaster. Leave it on female, sure. Okay, now I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 options. I'll go ahead and roll a d6. If I land on a 4, I'll roll again. A 1. All right, so I'm playing a sorcerer. Sure. Okay, I'm playing a sorcerer. So I'm playing a sorcerer. Sorcerers are born with the ability to use powerful magic. They have fewer spells than wizards, but can cast much faster and more often. All right, you know what? I decided I'm playing a spellcaster. I'll read through the list and... no, but... I'm going to read through all this list. I'm still going to play a sorcerer because that's what I rolled. So that's in general. I click on more info. Sorcerers can inherently cast arcane spells without needing academic training like wizards. They can only perform a fixed number of spells in this way, but they can cast them much faster and can do more damage over time. Okay, so First sentence, nothing really gameplay related, it's just lore. Second, they can perform a fixed number of spells. I know what that means. A new player will figure that out eventually, but I can tell that there's some kind of limitation that doesn't apply to wizards. Um, no, it's kind of implied that it doesn't apply to wizards, um, but it doesn't say that outright. Maybe if I look at wizard, we'll see in a minute if that's a different option. But they can cast faster. Okay, so I'm going to cast faster. Sorcerers, along with favored souls, get more spell points than any of the other classes. They also gain more bonus points. Spell points. Okay. So here, Arcane. One of the two main types of magic, Arcane magical energy suffuses the world and is drawn out and used by arcane casters to cast their spells. Okay. No gameplay, all lore. Spell points. A spell point is a unit of magic energy. To cast a spell, you need a certain number of spell points. The more total spell points you have, the more spells you can cast in between rest. All gameplay. Got it. Explain to me what spell points are. And I get more of them, which means more spells. So as of, a paragraph and a half into this, I know as a sorcerer, I'll be able to cast spells more quickly. I'll have a limited number, and I can cast more spells. Okay. They also gain more bonus spell points from special magic items. That will become apparent later. As a result, they can cast more often. Okay, more spells. Sorcerers cannot switch spells at taverns or rest shrines. They are able to switch spells, but to do so, they must undergo a special ritual that can only be done once every few days. Okay, well, that's relatively specific. Okay, I mean, I think it's 3, but that's specific enough. There's going to be a limit. I need to be careful when I pick my spells. Okay, so that's fair. All right, now I'm going to click on stats. No context for what this is. Okay, it does tell me what each stat does. Strength measures your muscle power and affects your chance to hit with melee attacks and the damage you deal with them. Dexterity measures your coordination and agility. The stat affects armor class, which it tries to give you some idea what that is. Reflex saves, again, doesn't tell you anything about that. And your chance to hit with ranged attacks. Con measures your health and stamina. This stat affects your total hit points and fortitude saves. Again, no explanation of what a fortitude save is. In fairness to DDO, there is a small, reasonable expectation for somebody playing this game is going to have some experience with D&D. However, modern D&D doesn't use reflex fort and will saving throws. The saving throws are stat based. So somebody coming to the game now isn't necessarily going to understand what that means. And 5th edition has been out for I want to say a decade now. I mean, it's been a while. I might be off by a couple of years, but it's been a while. I mean, they're already replacing Lost Mine of Fendelver as the intro box, right? And I can't even remember how long ago I bought that. Okay, intelligence measures learning and reasoning ability. This stat affects how many skill points a character gets and also affects spell access. Spell points and offensive spell powers for wizards and artificers. Wisdom measures willpower and intuition. The stat affects will saves. Again, no explanation. For all characters, spell access, spell points, and offensive spell power for clerics, druids, paladins, and rangers. Offensive spell power for the favored souls. And is also important for some monk abilities. Okay, and wisdom also affects. Why is it singling out favored souls? I don't know. And then charisma measures your force of personality and magnetism. This stat affects spell access, spell points, and spell power for sorcerers, and bards. Spell access and spell points for favored souls, and turning ability for clerics and paladins. Okay, not a whole lot of explanation for what that is. Again, I feel like a lot of reliance on at least passing understanding of third and third and a half edition D&D. Was that fair in 2006 or 2010 or whenever they created this page? Maybe. Some of that's going to be a little confusing to people now. Okay, important stats. Charisma is the most important stat for sorcerers. High charisma makes sorcerers' spells more difficult for enemies to resist and also gives him or her more spell points. Constitution is important for sorcerers who want to increase their hit points, and dexterity is important for increasing defense. Typical abilities: empower spell and maximize spell. With no, that is a period. Okay. While this special ability is active, do 50% more damage, but they consume 15% more things. Damage spells deal double damage, but they consume 25 additional spell points. Okay, so what this is telling me, but isn't telling me, is that I want to max my charisma, put probably 2 points in strength, depending on my race, and then the rest in con. I know that, but it doesn't tell me that. Okay, so depending on what race I pick, I may or may not be able to match this. And more importantly, I'm not going to remember. By the time I get to the race, I'm not going to remember this. And to be honest, I might end up picking one of the pre-made paths. I'm probably going to leave that up to a D4 roll. Okay, not inspiring here. There is some significant information. Okay, what are hit points? What do these spells do? Okay, but there definitely some terminology in here that somebody who is coming to this literally completely clean isn't going to know. Can Standing Stone Games account for absolutely nothing? Not in a text area here. These are things that need to be explained in probably some kind of longer tutorial setting where characters are put into specific prearranged situations where the concept of saving throws and spell DCs and all of that stuff is explained to them. I mean, I'm talking about an entire expansion worth of work. Am I, as a regular player, willing to give up a a regularly paced out expansion to make the barrier to entry to this game smooth? I don't know. I don't know. But we've got our sorcerer. Okay, we've decided on sorcerer. Is that the best choice for a solo character? Absolutely not. Does it tell me that? Solo ability challenging. Okay, I forgot to look at that. All right, so I'm playing. Let's assume I know I rolled, but let's assume I'm looking at this, and I don't know anybody. I don't know how easy it's going to be. I've heard the game is. Let's say I've heard the game is dying. I've been on the forums, and so I've heard the game is dying. And so I'm not expecting to find anybody to help me. So I've decided I want to play a spellcaster, but now I see spellcasting or solo ability very good. All right. Wizard is challenging. I can't play Favored Soul. Druid is good. And Warlock is fair, which is a complete and total understatement. If you know what you're doing with Warlock, you can solo the mess out of that. Okay. The game is telling me, just from this, if you want to play by yourself. Now, this is a little bit cheating because I already have a series where I'm playing a War Priest of Sibris. But that's not what I'm doing here. I mean, maybe I'll end up with a War Priest of Sibris, but I don't know. But Well, I mean, I'll get there when I get there. All right, solo ability, very good. Let's read this. Divine spellcasters and healers, clerics have a broad range of spells at their command. They excel at curing ailments and healing allies, but also have the ability to blast enemies with their divine power. Very fair. Cleric is a very strong class. Clerics use divine. I'm going to assume this is more lore. The two main types of magic, divine magical energies, come from deities or other divine sources, usually on other planes. This energy is given to or earned by divine casters and then used by them to cast their spells. Clerics use divine magic and gain all of their spells as they level up. They don't have to inscribe new spells like wizards or pick a subset like favored souls. Clerics also have a special ability called turning. They can use this to attack undead or assist allies. Okay. Unlike wizards and sorcerers, clerics have powerful healing spells and can wear armor and use shields, granting them better protection than other casters. Fair. When clerics are at taverns or restaurants, they can switch to different spells to better address the challenges of their current quest. Favored souls and sorcerers cannot do this. Okay, so that's fair. They're giving me some contrast of why I might want to play a cleric as opposed to a favored soul or a sorcerer. Okay. I'm not going to run through all of the explanation of the stats again, but we will read this block here. Wisdom is the most important stat for clerics. High wisdom makes a cleric's spells more difficult for enemies to resist. It doesn't explain the concept of DCs or what that means, and I think resist is used in multiple contexts. So I'm not sure if that's the best way to put it. I mean, technically, what they mean is more difficult for enemies to save against, but they haven't explained saving throws, so they can't really say that. And gives him or her more spell points. Charisma is important for clerics who want to be able to use divine abilities like turning more often. Notable abilities turn undead. Well, this is kind of directing me to try and turn undead. So I might try to do that. We'll see. Okay. So I don't know what somebody is going to click. I'm going to click next. And I'm presented with this. Build your character from scratch and make your own choice for all stats and abilities. This option is only recommended for advanced players. Okay, so if I'm a brand new player, the game is telling me, Standing Stone Games, please fix something about this. The game is telling me not to use customize. So I'm not going to use customize. Font of Healing, solo ability, good. Scourge of the Undead, solo ability, very good. Implication that I'm going to use turning. The game has told me to turn. I'm leaning towards Scourge of the Undead. And then War Priest of Sibris is excellent. Okay, so, I mean, I'm going to go Scourge of the Undead. No, let's roll. Let's roll. Okay, same deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me bring up the... Oh, the dice is still on the screen. 2. All right, Font of Healing. All right, says good. Get the dice off. Don't need that right now. These clerics are known for their amazing capacity for healing and their ability to assist the party. They monitor the status of their allies and are quick to aid anyone when needed. All right. Choose this path if you prefer a support role rather than that focuses on healing allies. As a Font of Healing, you will play an extremely important role and will be nearly unmatched in your ability to heal. With your curative magic, you can benefit yourself and your party by removing harmful status effects and replenishing hit points. When you're not healing the party, you will still have some spell attack capability to use on enemies. Well, I don't know if I want that. Fonts of Healing focus primarily on wisdom for spell power and spell points, and some constitution to increase hit points, and charisma to give them more uses of their special abilities. What does Scourge of the Undead say? These clerics use their divine power to destroy the undead and other evildoers and assist others in this mission. They concentrate more on dealing damage with spells, but are also capable of healing the party. Okay? Choose this path if you prefer to focus on attacking with spells and on healing allies. As a Scourge of the Undead, you will split your time between healing and using offensive spells and abilities against enemies. With your curative magic, you can benefit yourself and your party by removing harmful status effects and replenishing hit points. When you're not assisting the party, you will be able to attack with powerful spells and will be particularly effective against undead enemies. So, Scourge of the Undead takes a lower charisma score from Font of Healing. Font of Healing, based on the stats, is going to be a better turning character than Scourge of the Undead. However, my dice rolled Spellcaster. This is the spellcasting class. This is the spellcasting cleric. I happen to know War Priest of Sivris is melee. So despite my rolls, I'm going with Scourge of the Undead. Okay, so race. Let's go through them. Born to Fight. Dragonborn are a race of warriors and adventurers that hail from Arganessen. They have the unique ability to channel elements into a breath weapon attack. Descended long ago from dragons on the continent of Arganessen, Dragonborn have only recently begun to sojourn to places like Stormreach. Dragonborn start with higher strength and charisma but lower dexterity. Resistant to an element of your choosing, potential to excel at both martial and spellcasting roles. I'm a spellcaster. I'm interested. Lower dexterity makes certain fighting styles difficult, such as two-weapon fighting. I have no idea what that means, but I'm a spellcaster. I'm assuming that doesn't matter. So what is this? Is this based off of, what if it's human? Human it is a thing? Does this mean you're going to take extend spell? What happens if I do customize? I'm not doing customize. Nothing. So that's going to, oh gosh. Okay, I don't get to pick my dragon ancestry. If I do this, it's automatically picking fire, which is not the worst. And follower of the sovereign host, sure. Longsword into shield while I'm spellcasting. Fine. Got a decent charisma. It's not bad stats. Okay, my dex doesn't matter that much because I'm going to be in heavy armor. So not bad. All right, what about drow? Drow elves are similar to other elves, but on average have greater intelligence and charisma. They also have an innate spell resistance that makes them harder to hit by many enemy spells. Sounds interesting. Drow are the dark cousins of the elves, and like their cousins, they have a long and storied history. While many live underground in the wilds, away from civilization, and pursue their own agendas, some drow have emerged to join the society of adventurers and mingle with the other races. Drow start with higher dexterity, intelligence, charisma, and lower constitution. Well, that sounds bad, but we'll see. Spell resistance that shields them from many enemy spells. Bonus to will saves. Don't know what that is. Ooh, explanation of saves, finally. When certain harmful effects hit you, you roll to avoid, at least partially, damage or harm. And the higher your saves are, the better chances you have. The 3 types of saves are fortitude for physical stamina, reflex, quickness and agility, and will, mental toughness. Okay. I found that by accident. I mean, I found it. It's here. And we'll see where it shows up again. But if I look, I don't want to play an elf. Or if I knew what drow were and I didn't like Dritz for some reason. I mean, I don't know when they're supposed to teach you this stuff. But okay. So again, extend spell. I get proficiency with some stuff. Follower of the Sovereign Host again. And then elf, whatever that means. Lower charisma. Oh, because it's building up my constitution as much as possible. But lower charisma than Dragonborn. Same wisdom. Something to consider. Dwarves are very tough and hardy, but are not as charismatic as most of their races. They are naturally resistant to many forms of magic and are stable on their feet. Okay. Dwarves are a proud folk that often dwell in massive caverns and strongholds of stone, hewn straight from their ancestral mountain ranges. The other races often consider them materialistic, but dwarves would say they just appreciate fine craftsmanship, whether that be in stonework, jewelry, or weapons. Dwarves start with a higher constitution and lower charisma, resistant to poison and many enemy spells, various bonuses when fighting certain types of creatures, harder to trip or knock down than other races, slightly lower charisma. So I'm taking extend spell. That's happening. Just a 10 charisma. I was told charisma was kind of important, so I'm probably not doing that. All right. Corvair elf. Elves are very dexterous but less hardy than the other races. They have a resistance to enchantments and have keen senses. Elves and wood elves share the same racial past life feats. I have no idea what that is. Racial past life feats are special feats granted when undergoing racial reincarnation at level 20 or higher. Okay, I mean, I know what the word reincarnation means. I can assume that this is some kind of game mechanic. Elves are extremely ancient and refined culture, and most elves learn about the accomplishment of their ancestors and are taught to appreciate where they have come from. Most are in tune with nature, often dwelling in peaceful forest homes high in the trees. Elves start with higher dexterity and lower constitution, resistant to any enchantment spells, keen senses that allow them to spot hidden traps, doors, and hiding enemies better than other races. Slightly lower hit points due to lower constitution. I was told constitution was important. And again, wood elves are similar to elves, but are more hardy, having no constitution penalty and less inclined towards higher learning, lower intelligence. Okay. Wood elves have ancient roots, with their culture originating near the same time as other elves. Hardier than other elves, many were raised up in the most dangerous wilds where few others would dare go. Higher dexterity and lower intelligence. Same resistances, fewer skill points. I have no idea whether or not that's important. Just taking concentration versus a wood elf, which is just taking concentration. Okay, drow is taking magic device. Sure. Gnome. Gnomes are small, clever, and insatiably curious, yet not as strong as others. They gain bonuses versus giants, bonuses with and against illusions, and are hard to hit due to their small size, and have a general affinity with magic devices. Gnomes love magic, inventions, and secrets, often skilled with illusions and mercantile ventures. Many gnomes dabble in magic of one kind or another, though some are skilled with light hammers and similar weapons. Okay, so I mean, all of these descriptions are giving a little bit of game mechanics in with the lore. Gnomes start with higher intelligence and lower strength. I don't necessarily need strength, so sure. Gnomish proficiencies, which I can't see what that is. And I'm taking spellcraft and concentration, supposed to use magic device. Not really sure what that's about, or what spellcraft even does. Yes, I'm taking my time. If I thought it was even remotely practical, I would have gone through what the game says about every single class and every single race. But I figure somebody's going to have some idea of what they want to play, and I'm going to give the game the benefit of the doubt and say somebody might go through and look at all of the races they have access to. Again, I want I don't want to say, hey, I didn't know X, Y, or Z when the game was trying to tell me. But I am going to evaluate how easy it was to come across that information. A lot of people aren't going to read all this stuff. Right? A lot of people they're going to have in mind what they want to be, or they're just going to pick human because they don't know what to do, and that's going to be the end of it. And they're not going to read all this stuff. Halflings are very agile, but are small and not as strong as the other races. They're naturally good at hiding and using throwing weapons, and are a bit luckier than the other races. Halflings are diminutive people with great spirit and tenacity. They are very adaptable and have learned to use their small size as a great advantage, often overcoming huge obstacles in resourceful ways. Halflings start with higher dexterity and lower strength. Luck bonus to saves. Okay, again, we get the explanation of what a save is. Bonus to attack and defense due to small size. Bonuses to jump and move silently skills. Bonuses when using thrown weapons. Now, I think these bonuses are not inherent. I think these come in the enhancement trees, which I'm very, very worried the game isn't going to tell me about, or at least not soon enough. And then my stats, lower intelligence, so we're just getting one skill, and we're taking concentration. All right, half elf. Half elves have a good blend of human versatility and elven sensibility. They can do well in any class and are also naturals at social interaction and can use social skills more often than the other races. Now, they updated the look of these. How does that compare to a human? Okay. Half-elves are mixed human and elven ancestry and possess many of the good aspects of both races. Growing up in between the human and elf cultures, half-elves usually develop their naturally good social skills to smooth their way through the world. This can be of aid in battle as well as out. They are also a versatile race and can specialize in any number of directions. Versatility, increased capacity to use the intimidate, bluff, and diplomacy skills. No weaknesses. That's got to be a bonus here. Half-elf dilettante paladin with no explanation for what that might be. We'll look at it later. It's not like it's giving me a choice. Immunity to sleep. They love picking follower of the sovereign host, so cool. Half-orc. Half-orcs are extremely strong, but generally have less intelligence and charisma than most other races. Well, I know I need charisma, so might be backing out of this one. Half-orcs are of mixed human and orc ancestry. They have much of the physical strength of their wild orcish forebears, and the human side of them allows them to be more disciplined in their training. Although they are occasionally shunned in social settings because of their appearance, no one can deny their formidable combat ability. How long have I been recording? Oh, goodness, half an hour. Wow. Streamlining SSG. Streamlining. Half-orcs start with higher strength and lower intelligence and charisma. All right, so I know I need charisma. Human, increased capacity to learn skills, no weaknesses. Human, use magic device and concentration. No spellcraft for some reason. No explanation for why one over the other. Can't do tabaxi, although let's just have a look because they're awesome. Tiefling. Tieflings have infernal ancestry that shows itself in their barbed tails and twisted horns. They are naturally charismatic and resistant to fire. Tieflings have infernal ancestry, blah, blah, blah. Charismatic and resistant to fire. So, same thing. Tieflings start with higher charisma. No weaknesses. I've been told I need charisma, so what are my options here? Dragonborn, Drow, and Tiefling so far have given me bonuses to charisma. Nothing that I have access to is going to give me a bonus to wisdom. And Dwarf gave me constitution, but no charisma. So I think I need either Dragonborn or Tiefling. Yeah. I need Dragonborn or Tiefling because From what I've been told, I need to concentrate on wisdom, constitution, and charisma. The only thing that's going to give me a bonus to constitution is going to take away from my charisma. Now, I know that that's a perfectly fine sacrifice to make because I'm not really going to be doing a whole lot of turning of undead. But the game hasn't told me that. And if I take drow, I'll lose constitution. But for what I'm after, dragonborn and tiefling, there's no downside from what I've been told is important. So, we're going to roll a d4. Dragonborn it is. Let's get this done. Okay. No. Noa persona. New character. Not bad actually. I know I'm fire dragon. Let's go with green eyes. I can be happy with that. Not bad. All right. Okay. End of episode 1. We have picked a race and a class. Is this a good character? No. But I don't know that yet. So next time, I'm going to dive in and see what the game tells me, what Korthos Island, how well that teaches me what I need to know, and try to identify the areas that it leaves out. And hopefully this will be useful, honestly, to SSG. I don't think I'll be telling them anything they don't know, but somebody has got to go through and try to identify where this game falls short for new players, because we're trying to get new players. We want them to stick around. We want them to play the game. And they're not going to do that if they don't know how to play. And as much as I would love for them to watch my videos or to watch StrimTom's beginner basics or to, read through the really good wiki, not everybody's going to do that. Some people are going to give up before they get to that point. All right. Gratias Huobisago. Gratias Maximas Huobisago. Thank you so much if you have stayed to the end of this stupid long video. I can't promise you that's going to get any better. This is as much for my record keeping as anything else. If there's anything you feel like I missed, if there's anything you remember about your first time playing and what was confusing to you, please leave that in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Love to get your feedback about not just the video, but about the game. What was it like when you first played? The first time I played this game was in May of 2010. It was 12 years ago. I do not remember that experience. Not specifically. So, I'm trying to pull from the game what I need to know. I will see you next time for the Grotto, which I will be playing through. Si waletis, ego waleo, walete.